Ukraine set to declare a state of emergency and orders its citizens to leave Russia immediately.
ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. The Ukrainian government has responded to the threat of a wider Russian invasion with measures to protect its people. A state of emergency is to be declared lasting 30 days and citizens are being told to leave Russia immediately. In the last hour, Boris Johnson has announced extra defensive weapons are being sent to Ukraine. The Labour leader pushed the Prime Minister to impose tougher sanctions on Russia now. We'll get the very latest from Kiev in a moment, but first our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports. Our global security editor Rohit Katru is in Kiev for us. So Rohit, a state of emergency, what does it mean for Ukrainians? Let's return now to our political correspondent Carl Dinnan in. The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, has told ITV News he is ashamed by the conditions some social housing tenants are living in. In an exclusive interview with our correspondent Daniel Hewitt, he admitted the government had failed tenants and more affordable housing needs to be built. Well, Daniel, this is a very different response from the government than what we've heard in the past.
It is, and this is a really... Promises were made to social housing tenants that the culture about their complaints are dealt with significant, because ultimately this problem can only be solved with the government's will.
Still to come. But first, a man found guilty of stalking tennis star Emma Raducanu has been given a 5-year restraining order and will have to do 200 hours of unpaid work. Amrit Margar found the home of the British #1. He left notes and stole her father's trainer. Well, Geraint Vincent. A hostage standoff in a shop in Amsterdam came to an end when police drove into the hostage taker as he ran from the store. It's thought... Footballer Troy Deeney is calling on the government to make the teaching of Black, Asian and minority ethnic histories and experiences mandatory across the school curriculum. It's after the Birmingham City captain commissioned a report which found... Finally, there are handwritten scribbles in an old notebook, but the words written in the late 1960s would become famous the world over. They are the lyrics to Hey Jude, written by Beatles frontman Paul McCartney. The book belongs to a former Hollyoaks actor who was given it as a 21st birthday present. Well, Davinia Taylor has now donated it to the Beatles Museum to make sure it never leaves Liverpool. Victoria Grimes has the story. Safe and sound where it all began. And that is it. Mary will be here with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But from everyone here on the Lunchtime team, bye-bye. Hello again. Now the main stories. In London, a senior Metropolitan Police officer has accused the Mayor of London of failing to follow due process over the resignation of Cressida Dick. A 68-year-old man is beginning a 25-year jail sentence after sexually exploiting 7 teenage girls. Face coverings will no longer have to be worn on all Transport for London services from tomorrow, TfL has announced. Heathrow Airport has recorded its lowest annual passenger numbers for nearly 50 years. The airport's... And finally, 2 Vauxhall City Farm alpacas are retiring from public life today after 17 years. Let's take a look at the weather. Here's Chris Page. Before we go, a look at what's coming up at 6.